parliamentary committee responsible for the question.
What difference do you think the committee might make, Mark?
Well, this is very interesting. He's talking about acting as though the opposition wants to keep the long form compulsory and use the threat of jail time. Of course, the 2006 census, the last census, was done under the government of Stephen Harper. The issue didn't even come up at the time. The 1986 and 1991 census were done under the Mulroney government. This issue is something that they've brought to the table at the last minute for ideological reasons, and they don't seem, as Charlie Angus points out, to be able to come to their senses and back out of it and fess up they made a silly mistake.
Charlie?
Well, you know, again, we go back to this issue of political maturity. When I was listening to Minister Clement explain why they canceled, and he said, listen, we have a small group, he said it was small, of conscientious objectors. And that's a very loaded word. Conscientious objectors to what? To government. So we decided to cancel the long-form census. And now the fact that, you know, the major bank economists, Board of Trade, every municipality in the country is speaking up. They're saying, damn the torpedoes. We would rather pander to the small group that believes, as Mr. Poilievre seems to be suggesting, that if they don't fill out that form, the government will come to their house and take them off to some kind of census re-education camp. That doesn't happen in this country. And it would be a lot more useful for the debate if the government had just admitted they made a mistake in the hot summer months when they didn't think anybody would notice it. And rather than entrenching themselves further into, I think, what is a fundamentally indefensible and ridiculous position, they just toned it down, address this, and we could get back to business.
It's a good point that Mr. Garneau makes, Pierre. It's the first time I've even heard of this as a big issue, as though there's a whole bunch of people complaining to the government that they wanted rid of this. Why now? Why did this not happen before? And I mean, why now? Why now? Tell us.
Well, the government, this government believes that Canadians should not be coerced against their will to provide personal and unnecessary information.
No, I get that. You've said that a few times, but
right.
why make that decision? But why now? The timing issue is what I'm asking. Why not do this before?
It's never the wrong time to do the right thing.
But you had just subjected it to a privacy audit, and it had passed with flying colors. You'd done all the work on the privacy issue. Then you come out and say, we're concerned about people's privacy. You never talked to the privacy commissioner once on this. It went through a privacy audit. It met all the specifications. And now, after the fact, and we cannot see it as anything else other than a political decision, after the fact, you're throwing out excuses. Why, if you put it through a privacy audit in the first place, are you coming now and saying it's an issue of privacy?
Go ahead,
well, one of the basic precepts of Canadian privacy law is that no organization is allowed to have your information without your consent. This mandatory census, by definition, violates that principle. It allows
I guess we don't have to pay taxes anymore.
The government,
they got my information.
It allows the government to take unnecessary personal information from people by coercion at threat of jail time. And we don't think that in principle is the right thing to do.
Okay, gentlemen, last point to you, Mark. Go ahead.
Well, if we took the time to explain to Canadians, the vast majority would say, hey, okay, I'll spend a couple hours filling out this census because it's good for Canadians. I wish the Conservatives have taken that approach.
Okay, I got to wrap it up, gentlemen.